Hey everybody, Matty Ice here, and welcome to my raid guide video on King's Fall. If you ever want any help doing this raid or anything else, you can follow me on Twitch, follow me here on YouTube, and I'd be more than happy to help carry you through some of these content and explain how to do it. The gameplay you'll be seeing here in the background is stuff that I did with an LFG group on Monday, the weekend the raid released. I was actually out, so I wasn't able to do day one. But yeah, we were able to teach these people how to do the raid and hopefully be able to teach you how to do it too. So the opening encounter, dunking the orbs, is pretty much the exact same as in Destiny 1. If you did not play Destiny 1, you have to pick up these orbs and you have a limited time to take them back to the statues that you see me running to, along with Captain over there on the other side. And you have to dunk these at roughly the same time in order to complete the cycle and then go get the next orb. Each time you complete a cycle, the balls spawn further and further away, so it's very important that you coordinate your timing of pickups. So the way that I do this encounter, there's basically two ways to do it. You can split into 2 teams of 3 or 3 teams of 2. I prefer 2 teams of 3 as it's a little easier and it helps you with the challenge for this encounter, which I can explain a little later. But what you have to do is you take your group of 3, one group goes right, one group goes left, you find your ball, coordinate with the person on the opposite side of you picking up the ball there, pick them up at the same time, and then make your way back to these statues to dunk. There are 6 statues in total, so you have to do this 6 times. Now, while you're doing that, the other 2 members of your 3-person group will be clearing ads and shooting the Taken Blight doors so that you can pass through. Now, the trick to this one is that the balls are not always obvious. The third ball, for example, on the right side of the room is off to the far left side, as you can see here I just went to, and it took me a little while to find that one, if you don't know where they are, it can take a second. Now to do the challenge for this, you have to rotate responsibilities, so the same person cannot dunk an orb that has not, as long as there's someone who hasn't dunked it before. So basically, if I dunk it, then player 2 on my side has to pick up the next one to dunk it, and then player 3, and then I can go again. Now this is a fairly simple challenge, as long as everyone knows where the balls spawn and knows what to do. So it's pretty easy for you and your friends to get done, and you can also probably do it with a LFG group like I did here. Now the last thing to note about this encounter is that, as I mentioned before, you don't necessarily have to dunk them at the exact same time. They just have to be pretty close together. So as these balls get further and further away, your timing is going to get tighter and tighter. So if you manage to get back to your dunk earlier than your partner on the other side, and your time is running low, you can dunk to get a little bit of extra relief time, and then your partner can dunk their ball shortly after you. So you can see here I've got about 5 seconds left and we just make it at the same time, but then that means that our last ball is going to be really tight on that timer. So I would recommend, again, coordinating your pickups, and if you need to, you can dunk yours a little bit before your partner on the other end. Now I'm going to let this keep playing here so you can see the final ball spawn on the right side. I don't have the ball spawns on the left side just because I wasn't doing those, but they should be fairly similarly positioned. These encounters are fairly symmetrical. So now that you've picked up and dunked all your orbs here, it's going to open the gate, which is the Court of Oryx area from D1. You're going to clear a bunch of these ads, and then you want to make sure you do not go through the portal. Now the reason you do not want to go through right away is because we are going to get the red border chest, and in order to do that, you have to get these secret glyphs that are underneath the portal. Just like in Vow of the Disciple, these 3 glyphs will correspond to secret things you have to shoot throughout the entire raid, and you have to do it in one session. You can do these on every character every week, so you can get guaranteed 3 red border weapon drops every week, as long as you run it on all 3 characters. I will show you where these are for my group here, the 3 that we had, as well as the other locations, but I do not shoot each one. I'm going to also put up a map here just so you can see where they all correspond to rough locations, but again, I will show them as we go through the raid, and I'll highlight it in the chapters as well. So you can see there's the first one that we had, which was in this swinging pendulum column right after the gate. So if you're not paying attention, it's pretty easy to miss that first one. Alright, moving on to the next platforming section. This is the ship section. Again, it's very similar to D1. I think they just changed some of the timings on the ship spawns. So some of these timings are very tight and very late. Like the ship will not spawn until yours has already started to despawn. So just be aware, follow the path here that I have outlined for you, and you should be able to get this no problem. After you have finished the platforming section of the ship, you're going to, again, split into 2 groups of 3, or just leave 2 people behind. It doesn't really make a difference. But you're going to send the first group over to the secret chest, which is along the side wall. You can kind of see it over there where EKS is standing. So you're going to have players stand on the 2 plates that are in the back here, and while the other remaining members go on the ship. They are then going to jump off to the side and go into the secret hole. Once you do, there will be a gate that's blocking them, and that's what the plate opens up, similar to like the gate that's blocking the ship from going through if you were to just ride it straight through. Now, this is my perspective here. So once you have those 3 people on the other side, they are then going to stand on plates on the other side of the wall, which lets you continue and open the secret chest. This is also the location of one of the other runes that you have to shoot in order to get the red border chest. Again, I'm not going to shoot it just because it's not one that we needed, but I'm going to highlight the location of it for you. Alright, that brings us to the Totem Encounter. Now this is one that, again, is very similar to the encounter in Destiny 1. The main difference here is that the brand has to be stolen now from the person standing on the plate. And the power, the Death Singer's power is accumulated by shooting ads. So when you have the brand of the Unraveler or the brand of the Weaving, you have to stand on your totem in order to stop the Annihilator totem from destroying you all and wiping you. And while you're doing that, you need to shoot the ads. I recommend using a machine gun. Machine guns do very well here in regular mode. In master mode and contest mode, it's a bit different. But for this level of content, I definitely recommend Commemoration from Deepstone Crypt, or just any good machine gun with a high clip and auto loading or something along those lines. You are also going to need something to deal with unstoppable champions. For whatever reason, this is the only encounter in this whole raid that has champions, and it's unstoppable. So I used a unstoppable pulse. You can use the melee or whatever other seasonal unstoppable mod is out there. So once you have stood on the plate, killed some ads, you're going to get some power Death Singer. You have to take that power to the middle totem area. Well, the middle area, but there's not a totem. You have to stand on a plate to deposit the power. And once you've deposited all of your power, you can then move on to the next phase, which is getting the ability to take the buff off of the person who now has the brand. The way that you steal the buff is there's a wizard that spawns in the top left and top right. So depending on which side you are on, you will kill that wizard. It then spawns a brand claimer Taken Knight. You kill that brand claimer, he drops a buff that you pick up, which allows you to then steal the brand from your teammate. If you do not steal the brand, they will die with their Death Singer's power, and the aura that you have to pick up will reset back to the starting platform that it spawned on at the beginning. This is very messy if you get a cycle wrong, but it's still salvageable. Just because you can hold the totem without the brand, it's just going to slow you down a bit. So you can see here, I just killed a wizard, killed the Taken Knight. I am now a brand claimer. I'm running to Ghosty here, who has been building up Death Singer's power. He's giving me a countdown. I want to wait until there's about 2 seconds left, then I take the brand from him. and now it's my turn to begin killing adds and building up power. He's then going to go to the center plate, deposit that, and meanwhile the third person on our group is going to be coming over here. You can see Captain, he's coming over, and he's ready to steal my brand when my timer gets low enough. Now, the power is dependent upon the level of add that you kill. So any red border add is going to give you ×1, any yellow bar is going to give you ×3. So it's very important to just kill as many of those adds as possible, and if you're depositing your Death Singer's power, try not to kill too many adds that come through. You want to kill the Unstoppable and the Wizards and the Taken Knight, but you want to let a lot of the small fry come through because those are easy and pretty quick to kill. So once you've done that to where you collect 200 power, that's going to be the encounter. So if you haven't been able to tell from the background gameplay and through just generic explanation, you want to split into 2 groups of 3, and your 3-person team is going to just cycle this getting buff and power with depositing power and getting the brand claimer until you're able to clear the encounter. And once you clear the encounter, you'll be moving on to Warpriest. However, before you move on to the Warpriest area, you want to go to the Taken side, which is the left side from spawn, and there's going to be another one of those glyphs that you potentially have to shoot up on the ledge. Once you get into the Warpriest's room, there's another glyph in here as well. Make your way up to the top right of the room. There's a little balcony here, and on the wall is another one of the glyphs you need to potentially shoot. So that brings us to the Warpriest Encounter. So Warpriest works pretty similar again to Destiny 1. The main difference here is that you no longer have to read the totems from the back of the room. The person reading the totems is going to always start in the middle, and then the cycle kind of sets from there. Again, for this one you're going to split into 3 groups of 2, left, middle, and right. The left and right groups are going to be doing a little bit more ad clear, as they have to deal with wizards that spawn up on the balcony with the Warpriest, while middle deals with some smaller fry adds and a hive knight. Now, the way that this encounter works is once you've cleared all the adds, there's going to be 3 sword knights that spawn. When you kill those sword knights, the glyph sequence begins. And this is where you have to read the totems in order. You start the sequence by the person in the middle stepping onto the plate, checking to see which totem is lit up, and then stepping off of the plate. Once the lit up totem is read out, that side is going to have their plate person step onto the plate and stay on the plate. It's important that they stay on and not hop off. While they're on the plate, they're going to then read out which totem is lit up. That side then steps on their plate and stays on the plate, and then the last person who has not gotten on a plate gets on their plate. The last person to step on the plate is going to get the Aura of the Initiate buff, which allows you to do damage to the Warpriest as long as you're standing in it. And then just like with the Totems encounter, you are going to have a brand claimer buff spawn on any of the other 2 locations. So for the background gameplay you saw, I started with the Initiate buff that lasts about 20 seconds. Then the first Taken Knight spawned on the right side. Captain went and got that buff, waited till my timer got low, stole it from me, and then I immediately went to get the buff stealing on the left side and took it again right when he gets to about 2 seconds. You get 3 damage cycles of this. It's 20 seconds for the first buff, 15 for the second, and 3rd for the final. So you can get a little bit close to a minute of damage if you're able to time it right. And you want to make sure you're doing damage from a safe location, as the Warpriest will be shooting you the entire time. I definitely recommend a Well of Radiance here. It does wonders throughout this whole raid. Solar is very good for this raid. You kind of want 2 wells because of that timer extending past 30 seconds, and it just gives you a little bit more survivability. Now, once your damage phase is over, be it you completed your cycles or you lost the buff at some point, the Warpriest will call upon the Oculus, which is a instant kill for anyone who is not standing behind a totem in the shade. So you want to make sure you are standing in that shade of a totem. right as soon as your damage phase is over, and you might want to begin moving just before your damage phase is over, so you make sure everyone is covered. So again, you can see here our second damage phase, I was killed because we did not have the well, and my damage was showing up as immune because I wasn't actually in the border of the Brain Claimer. So you got to make sure you're standing pretty close together and you're coordinating all these things, otherwise you're gonna have a bit of a hard time. Due to the nature of his wipe mechanic, I recommend doing damage in the center first, as that's the easiest one to get to and to hide behind, and then I recommend doing your second damage on the right side. This is just because that's an easier one to get to than left, because left is higher up than right. If you have to go to damage on the left side, I recommend just getting over there first, setting up, and worrying about doing damage second. So you want to make sure everyone's up there and already hidden by the totem, or ready to hide by the totem when you get to that point in the encounter. Not that it makes a whole lot of difference, but once you've done enough damage to Warpriest, he will start spawning taken enemies instead of hive enemies. It's pretty much the same thing though. You're just going to kill all the adds, kill the knights, and then read the sequence. There's no difference there. When the totem is blown up, the totem highlights a little differently. You can see it's just a big red angry orb rather than that subtle white glow that you saw first time, but it's still pretty obvious which one is lit up there. So you should be able to get this done in 2 to 3 phases if you're using linears. I recommend a bait and switch cataclysmic or a triple tap firing line reads regret, just because those are able to output a ton of damage, and reads regret can auto reload, which is going to give you a lot of extra potential there. But yeah, that is the Warpriest Encounter. So once you have moved on from the Warpriest Encounter, you go into the Golgoroth Maze. Now this one is a bit tricky for the secret chest. There's 5 plates, like you can see I'm standing on here, that are scattered around the map. I will try to put up a map here of the encounter where all the plates are, but you basically have to stand on these plates in order. You'll know the order because when you step on it, it'll be green or red. If it's red, just hop off. If it's green, stay on it. And then as the rest of your team finds the other plates, they'll step on it and see if it's the next one in the sequence. And that'll get you the secret chest. So another glyph here at the end of the maze when you kill these two knights. That hole that I just jumped over that the knights are next to, inside of that hole is another one of the glyphs that you potentially need to shoot. This one was ours. So that's the 3 dots with the kind of chopstick looking things underneath it. Next symbol is pretty much right away. As soon as you get into Golgoroth's area, you want to just hop down off his little ledge and turn to your left, and it's underneath that upper platform that you can just see there. So that brings us to Golgoroth. Now this encounter is pretty much, again, exactly the same as Destiny 1. The only difference that I can think of is the way that the totem works, that wipes you, and the way that the balls spawn. So you still need to split into 2 teams, 1 damage team of 4 people, and 1 gaze team of 2 people. The people who will be taking his gaze are going to be kind of standing opposite of each other. So you're going to have 1 person in the back of the room, 1 person in the front. You're going to shoot him in the back once damage starts to take his gaze, which means you're going to get his attention, and he's going to start shooting these balls of venom at you. Now, when he does that, you have to then run to the front of the room and put yourself on the opposite side of your damage team so that your damage team is directly between you and Golgoroth. This is going to mean that he is shooting above your damage team and at you, while your damage team is able to shoot his stomach. Now, as you move to the front of the room, your partner who is taking the gaze will move to the back of the room so that they can shoot his back and take his gaze off of you when the timer runs out. If the timer runs out, the totem in the back of the room will fill up based on the number of outstanding balls that you have remaining. There are 6 orbs, 6 balls, which means that the totem can fill up to 6 times depending on how bad your damage phase was. Now, just like in Destiny 1, if the totem fills up, it will wipe the whole team, and you will fail the encounter and have to restart. The totem takes 6 charges to fill up, so you can pretty quickly fail this if you mess up taking the gaze a couple times. Now, the damage team, while the gaze team are rotating and making sure you're able to actually shoot him, the damage team is going to be responsible for shooting his stomach and keeping an eye on the new debuff that shows up of unstable light. The unstable light has about a 5-6 second timer. Your screen starts to turn green and it's pretty obvious. When that happens, you will explode at the end of that timer, killing everyone around you. You will not hurt yourself with it, but you'll kill all your teammates, which just is not good. Now, what you can do is go run up and hug Golgoroth, because the explosion does about 500,000 damage to Golgoroth. So it's a really good way to up your damage and to make sure that you are, again, just, doing this encounter as quickly as possible. Once you get about half of his health down, he'll begin spawning Taken ads. Again, this isn't really that big of a deal, except for the fact that there are Taken phalanxes, and they can push you out of your juice that you have to stand into in order to do damage. So, again, if you're not familiar with Destiny 1, you have to shoot the orb, you have to stand in the pool of light, pool of reclaimed light at the bottom, in order to do damage. That lasts for about 10 seconds, and then you have to move on to the next orb, all while the gaze team is cycling his vision and holding his attention so that you are able to actually do the damage. So this is a pretty coordinated effort. It's arguably one of the more coordinated encounters. Warpriest is definitely a big damage check, but this one I think has a bit more moving parts to it and a little bit more tighter timing. So you have to pretty much coordinate your gaze team has to be in constant coordination, and your damage team has to be on top of their stuff as well to shoot the orbs and to make sure they don't kill their teams with that explosion of light. My recommendation as far as loadout here, you could go shotguns like Acreus. I don't know if I would recommend that though, because Acreus pretty much only does good damage if you can activate Trench Barrel, and at some points you'll be close enough to do it, but other points you'll be further away. I think Linears and Witherhoard are still the good play here. You could do Izzy's. I don't know if you'd want to do rockets, just because, again, you could blow yourself up. But Well of Light, always good here. Or Well of Radiance, rather, always good. Just so you can stand in that reclaimed light while doing as much damage as possible. And just stay on top of your unstable light explosion, because that's going to do a good chunk of your damage for you. So I'm going to just have the rest of the encounter fast forward, just so you can see us finishing it, and then we'll move on to the next secret chest and glyphs. So once you have finished Golgoroth, you're going to move on to the aptly named Dick Wall. So this is just another platforming section with a secret chest and 2 glyphs. You want to follow the path here to get to the secret chest and one of the glyphs. There's these hidden platforms that you can reveal with your ghost, or if you get close enough to them, they reveal themselves. But you want to go to where that first plate is, and then just hop your way up the side, and in the back of that little hidey room is a glyph and the secret chest. Now, once you have gotten your chest, you want to make your way up to the top of the room, and at the ceiling is going to be another glyph. This is our 3rd glyph that we had to shoot. However, we didn't realize that somebody left one active, so we were unable to get our chest, but the final glyph is right into the Oryx room or Daughter's room above that door, if you need that one. Okay, the Daughters of Oryx Encounter. Again, this one is pretty similar to D1. The main difference is you get a little bit more time, and the plates are more simplified. So the way that the plates work now is there will be a knight that is on top of one of the plates. You kill him, and that causes the plate underneath him to glow green. You will have one person step on that plate, and then the person who is torn between dimensions will also stand on that plate. And then you will have someone stand on the plate that has the brand underneath it. There will be 3 brand fragments. You have to do one at a time. Once you stand on that second plate, the person torn between dimensions will jump across the platforms, while the other two people remain standing on the plates. If they hop off at any point, those platforms despawn and they will fall, and you have to repeat this process all over again. Now, once they are on the plates, they will run, like I said, up those platforms and touch. They don't have to hold any activation thing. They just have to touch the brand piece, and that will allow them to collect it. However, the third person who is torn will have to actually activate the button to pick it up. So again, you stand on the plate, you kill the knight, you stand on the plate, and then you have the person who's on the plate read out where they're going, have someone jump on that second plate, and the torn person jumps through and picks up the piece. Once you've picked up the third piece, the person who is taken and has the brand will go to the daughter that is not on fire, while the other remaining team will go to the opposite middle platform to do damage from. So this is a great spot to do damage because it's off the ground, you get less flinch from the adds, and you've got a good view and you're fairly close. Damage is going to be consistent of one Gjallarhorn and a bunch of rocket launchers. Hothead is typically the strat just because you can put big ones on it and most people have one. But any rocket launcher that does good damage will do, and then Gjallarhorn just lets you get that extra damage in there. Now the main play is to just do this in 2 phases, where you one phase each daughter. If you do this, you have to do it in 1 phase each time, otherwise you're going to have an issue where you can no longer steal the brand from the daughters, and you won't be able to complete the encounter and you'll wipe. Because you have to alternate each daughter each time, since you have the brand of the unraveling and the brand of weaving. So if you make a mistake and kill one of the daughters and are not able to kill the second daughter, it will cause a wipe. So if you're not sure about your damage output, just leave the first daughter alive, and then you won't have to worry about it. You can just 2-phase each of them. But yeah, that's pretty much this encounter. Again, there's not really teams here. It's kind of just a free-for-all of making sure that all the adds are dead. You kill the knight, stand on the plate, and make sure somebody gets on the second plate, and just coordinate. Everyone has to know how to do everything. This is a little bit of preamble for Oryx Encounter, because the plate mechanics will work pretty similarly, and I will cover that once we get to Oryx. But yeah, this encounter isn't too challenging. If you do it correctly, it'll take a couple minutes. You can see from the background gameplay here, I even messed up a couple times and was on Dawnblade or Daybreak as opposed to Will of Radiance, so I lost out on some damage there, but we're still able to clutch it. And I also ended up dying at one point due to adds, and we still had enough time to get all the pieces of the brand stealer, so there's not really an issue with timing on this encounter. It's pretty simple. One final call out to make is that when you do kill the daughters, just stay with the person who took the Aura of Invincibility, because there will be a explosion that could potentially kill you if you get too far away. Alright, moving on to Big Daddy himself, Oryx. So for this encounter, there are a lot of aspects that were taken from the Daughters encounter and just kind of ramped up. And then there's going to be a few other mechanics that are very similar to D1 with some slight modifications. So I'm going to explain this hopefully like you've never done Destiny 1 before, so you will be able to get a complete fresh understanding. Oryx is going to pick a side, left or right, and he's going to slam his fist on top of a plate. That is going to start this encounter. Now when he does this, ogres are going to spawn starting counterclockwise from where he slams his fist. You need to kill these ogres immediately, because when you kill them, they spawn a Taken Blight that you will use later to damage Oryx. So there will be 4 ogres that spawn, and you need to kill them right away, counterclockwise from his fist slam. As soon as you kill the ogres, there will be Taken Knights that are, I believe they're called Light Reclaimers, that will attempt to go into those blights and basically remove them. So you need to keep an eye out for those knights and kill them as quickly as possible. Now, While all this is happening, one person is going to be torn between dimensions, and you will need to do the plates similar to what you just did with daughters. Starting with where Oryx slammed his fist, you will have that person jump on a plate, the torn person go over to them, and you'll look to see where the brand that you need to steal is, and have that person jump on the corresponding plate. Again, you will need to do this 3 times, and then the second time you do this, the plate will move. It'll go to one of the other random plates, and you'll just see the glowing green flame around it. So again, you just call out which plate it is, have the people jump on their corresponding plates, and do that. Once you've done this 3 times, you will get a ability to steal the brand from this Vessel of Oryx, this knight. This is going to give you an aura of immunity, which is going to allow you to survive those blight bombs that you got from the ogres earlier. So the person who got the ability to steal the brand and the floater is going to come to the middle, kill the ads, steal the brand, kill the knight. Now the other 4 people are going to detonate their bombs by stepping into the blight area when Oryx calls upon the darkness, and then everyone is going to rush into the Aura of Immunity, which is going to help you survive that bomb explosion. The bomb explosion is going to stun Oryx, which opens up his chest and allows you to do damage. You need to just unload all of your heavy into his chest, as he has quite a bit of health. For our current level, it'll probably become easier as we move on, but for now, it takes about 2 to 3 phases to get him to his final stand. After you do a successful damage phase, one of 2 things will happen. Oryx will either summon an arena and randomly teleport people into it, where you have to kill a vision of Oryx or a vestige of Oryx in order to escape, or he will kind of push back away from the arena and he will summon bombs on everybody, and those bombs will kill you, so you need to keep moving, preferably away from each other, so you don't accidentally kill each other with your own bombs. And then the whole fight starts over again, to where he picks a new plate, and you get the brand and just repeat. The strategy that we used for this is that we had each of the 4 plates assigned to an individual person, and then the other 2 people are floaters who help clear ads and cover plates for when somebody gets taken. So the responsibility, if you had a plate, was to obviously jump on your plate if the green fire was corresponding to your plate. You were also responsible for killing your ogre and killing the knights that come to eat the blights. If you happen to get taken, or if you need assistance, you just call out, hey, I was taken at L1 or L2, or I need help killing my ogre or killing my knight at this spot, and one of the 2 floaters who are clearing ads will come help you. Along that same line of thought, the way we did this is as soon as you enter the encounter, where you plant the rally flag, those 2 pillars with the plates on it are L1 and R1, and L2 and R2 are in the back of the room where Oryx spawned. So when I did this with this LFG group, I was a floater, so you'll see me get on and off plates, you'll see me be taken in the background gameplay, you'll see me just running around killing things. I was basically doing my best to just kind of kill the ogres and the ads, while also helping out with plates and knights. So as a floater, you're kind of doing a little bit of everything, and as a plate person, you just have to know your duty for getting on and off your plate, and know which one you're at so you don't accidentally step on an incorrect plate. Doing this strategy worked out pretty well. It took us a couple attempts to teach everyone what to do and make sure everyone knew where they were going and knew all the mechanics, but this made this encounter fairly simple. Now, in interest of showing you all the mechanics, I'm going to cut here to another run we had where we were teleported into the arena. Now when this happens, if you're not teleported, you need to go on either side of that bubble and shoot any of the thrall, as they will attempt to make their way into the bubble and attack the people who were teleported, in addition to that vision of Oryx. So you'll see here in a second that I get teleported, and there are some thrall in there. It can make it a little complicated, so just do your best to kill all those thrall if you're able to. But when you're in here, you just need to find and shoot the vision of Oryx, Vestige of Oryx, whatever his name is, and once you do, you'll be teleported back out. Izanagi's does wonders here. I recommend just doing any kind of special weapon or your primary weapon, as you want to make sure you save any kind of damage dealing thing for actually hurting Oryx. So I'm going to go ahead and cut here to the final stand mechanic, as the rest of this encounter is pretty much just the same thing, where you're just cycling through those ogres, bombs, getting the brand stealer and all that. Now when you've finally done enough damage to get him to his health gate, Oryx will move back to the back of the room, and 2 ogres will spawn at L2 and R2. Again, kill them as quickly as possible, and have 2 people ready to stand into those bombs. You can detonate them both at the same time, again once Oryx calls upon the darkness, or you can detonate them one at a time if you need to extend your damage phase. We did not have any issue detonating them at the same time, and everyone else can begin damaging Oryx as soon as his chest opens up. You need to make sure you have enough heavy ammo for this, so if you need to run Aeons or you need to run Finders and Scavengers, just make sure you have enough ammo, because he still has a pretty sizable chunk of health for his final stand. But that is the final encounter, killing the Taken King once again, and then you can purchase your red border weapon for your character. Again, you can do this on every character once a week, so that's 3. And if you're able to get your red border chest, you can do that once per account per week. So you're able to get 4 guaranteed red border raid weapons, 3 of which you can pick, 1 of which is random, every week if you're able to run this 3 times fully on 3 characters. But that is my raid guide. I hope you found it useful and it helps you out. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else you want explained in better detail, or if you want to just join me on a run. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.